Hey everybody, welcome back to the Gamers Lounge podcast. My name is John Meadows. With me as always is Eric, Nathaniel, and Dennis. What is going on, guys?
Hello, hello.
Not too much. Just here for the pods.
I just realized that I recorded all the pre-show talk and forgot to stop and ring it, so I'll have 20 minutes of scrubbing to do before I get to the actual start of the show.
I mean, we can always do take two. Hey, we've done this before.
Yeah. I always try to pay attention to that, but every once in a while it's like if we're really talking or I'm really looking at something else, it's like, oh crap, I forgot to read it. But it's like, it's no big deal. I just make a mental note. 21. Yeah.
That's confidential stuff. People can't listen to that, John.
No.
The pre-show stuff.
Yes,
Hey, you know what? If
That's-
they wanted, if we had a Patreon, I would charge for that crap.
Extra 20 minutes.
Come join us on the pre-show.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what a lot of the some of the podcasts that I subscribe to on Patreon. Not only do you get their show ad free, but they put all that pre-show and post-show stuff before it. So there's one podcast that I subscribe to. Literally, the first hour is just them talking before they record the show about stuff.
That's dumb. That's just another podcast at that point.
Yeah, I mean, but they're talking about, well, they're like us. They're talking about everything. They're talking about the weather. They're talking about, some new thing they bought, or talking about fussing about bills or something like that. A lot of it you can fast forward through, but some of it's kind of interesting.
Why would you want to listen to that? Someone talking about bills. That's what I want to listen to in my entertainment hours.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you're driving in a car for a while, it's like, you got to have some kind of background noise on.
Yeah, but there's a few podcasts out there. You might have a different choice that may be better than listening to someone talk about bills.
Yeah, it could be. You're not wrong. I mean, you're not wrong. I'm not going.
You gotta have standards, John.
I guess.
You don't have to be super high, but above listening to people talk about bills is like that's very low.
My standards are very low with things. Very low.
Yeah, but that's a low bar to clear. You don't have to work that hard to get above that bar.
Well, I don't have to go above it. I just it's low enough that I can just step over top of it. That's how low that I
There you go.
I don't need to go under. I just need to step.
We'll one up them. Actually. Instead of talking about bills, why not talk about taxes? I feel like that affects everybody.
Oh my gosh! Don't get me started on taxes.
Get more political
on
that too.
We don't need any rants. So stop it now.
Real time with the Gamers Lounge.
Yeah.
Dial back that avalanche.
Yeah. Don't get me started on taxes.
We can see him about to go.
Yeah.
Grab John before he starts tumbling.
Gosh, yeah, it's bad every year. But anyway, but we'll talk about what we've been playing before we get too deep into taxes, because I don't want to.
Yeah.
Well, I guess me and Dennis could both talk because I've only played one game this week, and that was Stray. That's the only game that I've played this week, and it came out last week. I had meetings at my office, or the company office in Pennsylvania. So I wasn't here the day that it came out, so I didn't download it till I got back. Man, that game is really stupid fun. I mean, it's just stupid fun. It's not. Is it what you expected, Dennis? It's kind of
No, because what I expected, honestly, But that's a good thing though, because it wasn't what I expected. It's sort of exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
Because I thought we were gonna go into this sort of, I guess, adventure-esque. I wasn't expecting an RPG system or anything,
Right.
but like it just this more adventure. I don't want to say platformer, but I don't know, just an adventure. Something that
Yeah.
has more oomph to it and stuff like that. But instead, what I've been feeling, and it's weird because it doesn't look like it at all, but when I play it, I feel like I'm playing almost in a third person version of like Little Nightmares or Inside, because it has that
Yeah.
vibe to me where it's also like half walking simulator, but it's very atmospheric and also has so much environmental storytelling.
Right.
So, I feel like it's like those games, except it's in a 3D environment instead of like a side scroller where you're just going from A to Z.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the vibe I get from it. But I say that as a compliment because
Mm-hmm.
those are brilliant games, Little Nightmares and Inside, and all those types of games. I love those sorts of games. So the fact that Stray is more akin to that than what I thought it would be, I'm all for it, and I've been
Yeah.
having the time of my life with it.
Yeah. Now, have you beat it yet? I know it's not very long.
No, yeah, it's not very long, but honestly, I wish I could have, because that night I didn't want to go to bed, but I started getting so tired because my
Yeah.
plan was like, okay, this isn't going to be long. I've set up the night for it. Let me see if I can beat this in one sitting. And I honestly didn't get far at all. I put maybe like 3 hours in it.
Yeah. I'd say
So
that's about what I've done is 3 or 4 hours. I'm in
yeah,
that. Well, I've left the. Well, at the beginning, you're kind of in the sewer. I left that, and then you're kind of in that city with the robots, the robot dudes, and I've went to the next part. That's where I stopped. That was
okay,
where I got, and I don't know where that is, because as soon as they opened up the door and said, "Hey, you can go through here," I went through there, and
yeah,
then I was like, "Okay,
yeah.
I'm gonna save." So that's as far as I've gotten to. I haven't
I
had
think
time to
you
go
and I are in the
back.
same place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I love it. It's great.
Mm.
I mean, it is
yeah.
one of my it's one of my favorite games of the year. I mean, already,
Oh, for sure.
it's
Yeah, no, that game, it's going on my top 10 so far. Assuming
yeah,
nothing else like knocks it off the list at the moment, there's a good chance it'll be on my top 10 for
yeah.
this year for sure.
So if you don't care about the gimmick of yo, you're a cat, is there still enough like gameplay there to be fun or whatever? Because it's kind of like depending on some of the different reviews and stuff of and people talking about it, it seems like I may or may not actually like the game. It's kind of hard to tell.
And it's $30 digitally on Steam, right? Steam and PlayStation.
I
25, I think, actually.
yeah,
It's 20. I think it's 25. I don't
I
know.
have to
Doesn't
look.
matter.
I
Yeah.
don't remember. I pre-ordered it back a while ago. Um,
I think it's
I think it's 25, but it has a launch discount of like
Yeah.
10%.
I'm interested.
Um,
I've been interested. I like the things I've heard.
but yeah, to answer your question, Nathaniel, I think I mean, like, yes, it's for cat lovers, it's amazing, but I think I think there's enough there to enjoy, yes, because honestly, it is, if you like the idea of, I don't know, how do you feel about walking simulators in general? Not that it is one, but how do you feel about
Some of them are good, some of them are not. But this
it?
one
Okay.
at least looks like, like art style wise and all that stuff. It's not like you're walking through a boring thing like all the trailers
No,
look pretty
no,
enough. So
no.
like there's some that are really, really good out there that I've played.
Yeah.
So if it's a
Okay.
good one of those, then yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Did you like What Remains of Edith Finch? Let me ask
Oh
you that.
yes, that game's great.
Oh, okay, yeah.
okay,
So
yeah. Then
I'm getting a lot of vibes of that in Stray, honestly, and
Cool.
so imagine something like that. But yeah, I think just take away the aspect that you're a cat, and
Yeah.
gameplay wise, you do have a solid foundation of a game there with a fantastic environment, environments really, because you're going through a few,
Yeah.
and yeah, just the storytelling that happens, in a indirect manner is fantastic, and then you get a lot of kind of direct storytelling with the little B12, it's called, the little android that follows you as well.
yeah,
So yeah, and I mean, if you like Annapurna games in general, yeah, I mean, Stray's like a big hit for them, and yeah, I love it. Like, yeah, even, and I'm trying to, and that's my unbiased opinion. I mean, yes, I love it
yeah,
even more that you get to play as a cat because I love cats, obviously. But even if that wasn't the case, again, replace that character with anybody else, and you still have a fantastic game because gameplay wise, um, you're still doing like some stuff that you would do really in any other game that's similar like that. The only difference is you have a dedicated meow button.
Yeah.
That's
and
really
you can
it.
stretch carpets and couches and trees
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you
you gotta
walk
stretch those
by.
claws.
You can stretch
Yeah,
your
yeah.
They don't
nails
let you
out.
play a keyboard at least once in the game. They're doing it wrong.
Well, you could walk across pianos that they have
That is
there.
true.
Yeah,
That is true. Yeah, there's a little hidden
Kinda counts.
library that you can
yeah. I
find.
mean, it kind of counts. Yeah, it's I really. I mean, I knew I was just from the look of it. That was the whole reason why. What's funny is when they showed the Stray trailer during the PlayStation 5 announcements way back. It was like, oh, well, I've got to have a PlayStation 5 because I want to play this game. And then I got a Steam Deck, and it came out on Steam, and I bought it on Steam. I didn't even buy it on PlayStation 5.
Yeah, I'm playing it on PC.
And I haven't loaded it up on my PC. It runs at medium settings, 30 frames a second on Steam Deck. It's very playable. The fidelity's not super high, but it still looks real good. I need to boot it up on the PC just to be able to get it at full res. Some of the cutscenes, there's an aura around things, and but I mean, it's not a bad experience on the Steam Deck at all. So
what's the? I mean, I know there's more to a specifications than just a GPU, but what is the GPU equivalent on the Steam Deck?
You know what? Basically. I don't even remember. I would have to look it up.
Okay, because I have a 1050 Ti on my laptop, but since my desktop is across the country at the moment, and that has a RTX 2080 in there, but it looked fantastic. Like the game's really well optimized, and
it's roughly equivalent to an AMD Ryzen or Ryzen, however you say that, 3750. CPU.
I'm deciding if I should
buy... That's a CPU. That's not the GPU.
Oh, that is not. Yeah, it's not the GPU.
I don't know. Stray on PlayStation or Steam?
I heard because I'm on the Annapurna Discord because they invited like press forever ago. There's a lot of people in the general chat, including just fans and stuff, that apparently the PlayStation 5 version has a lot of issues. Like PC is the most stable version. PS5. The PS5 has a few issues, mainly some people complaining about a lot of their save files either not being saved or they ended up getting corrupted, which is not the case on PC at the moment. PC isn't perfect either, but otherwise it's a hell of a lot more stable than PlayStation 5 is. So yeah, I mean, pick your poison, I guess, if you're willing to take the risks.
Xbox it is.
Yeah, well,
surprise, it's on Game Pass now. We magically made it happen.
That would be that's my thing. Is I recently bought a couple things. I was like, great. And I was like, oh, coming out for Games with Gold. Oh, this month. Ah, crap.
Yeah, that's usually me. If there's a certain game that you want to come on Game Pass, say, hey, John, go buy it, and it will be on Game Pass within the next month. I guarantee it. Guarantee it.
All right, I'm going to work up a shopping list for you.
Yeah, work on your shopping list. I'll buy them, and then we'll turn around, and they will end up on Game Pass. I mean, my understanding is that Stray will eventually be on Xbox. I want to.
It's PlayStation.
Yeah, it's just a timed exclusive.
Yeah, it's going to be available physically on PlayStation 5, but I don't know if I want to wait and maybe see if I can get it physically on Xbox, or if I want to buy it physically.
And if you have just to have it. PlayStation Plus Extra, you get it for free.
Yeah, and I almost did the
in quotes free.
Yeah, I almost did the PlayStation Plus Extra just to get it, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to buy it and play it on my Steam Deck because I'll never. Well, I won't say I'll never play it on PlayStation 5. I would not play it as much. Because the Steam Deck's with me more,
regular PlayStation Plus isn't worth it for me, so paying for extra just
it's $40 if you want to buy the physical one. It looks like Skybound is the one putting it out.
Yeah, they're the one publishing the physical version. So, but yeah,
they're pretty reliable.
Yeah, but yeah, I can't. It just says it's RDNA 2 AMD architecture is all I can find. I can't find the exact specification of the.
Yeah, it's something custom for the Steam Deck. So it's kind of similar to like what's in the consoles. It's based on this architecture, but that doesn't necessarily tell you like it's exactly like this card because it's not going to be. It's all custom hardware.
Okay. And I mean, it runs. It runs good. I can't complain because it's running at 800p. It's like sure I want to play it in 1440p or 4K or whatever on my PC, but I will eventually. But You know,
Yeah, because I was playing on native 1080p and I was getting 60 frames no problem, and the game looks fantastic. I mean, could it look more gorgeous? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But the fact that on a 1050 Ti, not that it's a bad card, but compared to now, it is a few years old.
Right.
And but I mean, yeah, I mean the game's really well optimized on PC, and so yeah, that's why I was curious. Everything seems to be running pretty fluidly for me. I actually played a little bit on my PC, and then I ended up just hooking up my laptop to the TV and just playing it that way. I just kind of booted up or grabbed my Xbox controller and then just played it like I would a normal console game. So
yeah, I mean,
it's awesome.
On Steam Deck, it's 30 frames. It'll do 60, but it's not the best experience.
It's choppy.
Yeah, it's a little choppy. You want to play it at 30, which is fine for a game like that. I don't need it at 60 frames. I just don't. I mean, it's fine. It's one of those things.
I'm a 60 frame snob. I would hate it. Well, not hate it, but I just the whole time be like, oh, eye strain, hate it.
Yeah, well,
that's why I don't play my Switch as much anymore. Like I stopped playing it because when you have other than Nintendo stuff that you have to get on there, it's like even when I'm playing them, I'm just like, man, I wish this was a higher frame rate because going from seeing stuff at least 60 or higher, then you go down to 30, you feel it in your eyes just from you can only play it for so long before it just starts hurting.
Well, and I guess that's where, with it being the handheld and 800p and a small screen, it's like I could tell the difference.
Yeah. It's much worse if you're trying to play switch a dock mode on a big TV.
Oh
See that more on a big screen than you do on the handheld. Yeah.
Speaking of dock mode,
for sure.
I got this dock in for review for the Switch or for the Steam Deck, and I hooked it up to the 4K TV upstairs. Because it'll upscale, the TV will upscale to 4K. So it takes the 800p and then boosts it to 4K. It was like, oh, Stray does not look good like that. No, it does not.
Yeah, you can do upscaling, but it's only going to do so much, even if it's good upscaling, which who knows if that is or not. But like if you start small, you can only do so much. It's like any TV show, you're enhancing an image and. It's like, oh, look, it's perfectly crystal clear. Like, no, that's not how it works.
No. But what I do like about this dock is it does have 3 USB 3.0 HDMI out, and then it has a gigabit Ethernet port on it, which is awesome because I can just hook everything up. And literally what I do is I use it for desktop mode, and I use it to download stuff because it's faster than Wi-Fi. I can get 900 megs per second on this, where Wi-Fi it's like 400. But I mean,
400 also isn't that bad, right? So it's like, oh no,
you're a 60 frames a
second
that's
snob. Faster than
I'm
my normal internet.
Yeah, I'm an internet speed snob. So but yeah, I mean, it works really well because what's cool is I just hook the external hard drive up to this and move my ROMs and stuff over to it. It's a JSOC. It's really nice. I mean, I think it's aluminum. It gets really warm, but it's but it's nice. I need to write a review up this week for it. I know you got a long list, Dennis, but I want to ask you. So I actually booted. I've been wanting Live a Live or Live Alive, however they say it. I always say live a live because I'm a hick.
Live a live.
I say live alive, but I mean, I've heard it go both ways, honestly. So.
What about wait? Let's be radical here. What about live alive?
Well, I've said it that way
I've thought about that too. Yeah, I've said it that way too.
Or live a live.
Yeah.
You just gotta do all the variations.
Well, you know what the weird part is too is like what bothers me more so. It really isn't the pronunciation. It's like when I'm writing it, I don't know if it's one word. I don't know if it's hyphenated.
Right.
Or I don't know if live or live are 3 separate words. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
It drives me absolutely crazy.
As long as you use the characters, it doesn't matter. You can make them all capital. You can make them all lowercase. You can do all sorts of weird shenanigans. You can throw some exclamation points in there. It's probably fine.
We'll just call it Square Enix because that's what it is. It's just Square Enix.
So I actually pulled my. All week long, I've wanted to play it. I wanted to play it. So I actually pulled my Switch out after first time since March. I've pulled it out.
Blew off the dust?
Well, no, it was in a case, so there was no dust to blow off of it. Oh, okay. But I figured that I had put it in standby mode, so I figured it was going to be dead. But no, I actually turned it off. It was a miracle. So it still had 63 battery, and I was like, whoa, that's weird. So I actually downloaded the demo. Is that game really hard, or was I just too tired last night to play it?
Oh,
I
you must
kept
be
dying.
really tired. That game is easy, if anything.
I did the demo. I swear.
Just make it hurt worse, Dennis.
Yeah,
make it
no,
hurt worse.
No, I'm sorry, but no,
dig that knife in
I
there
get
worse,
it.
man. So okay, so like I did I started in the Japan one, because
Get
in the
good,
demo
John, get
you
good.
do I did
Yeah.
great. So I did the Shinobi. I literally snuck by 2 guards and then had to fight a guy in a hallway, and I got killed. It was like, and then I had to start completely over again. It was like,
Yeah.
why is this? And then I did it again, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? Why is this so hard? It's just a RPG. I know how to play RPG. I've played them for 40 friggin' years. It's like,
Cast
To be fair, that one is the hardest one so far because I've played now 5 of the 7 stories,
okay,
and the Japan one is definitely the hardest one.
okay.
for
Well,
sure.
then I just
And,
started off
yeah.
on the wrong one. Then I was just like,
Yeah, you did. I started off because even though I wanted to jump into the Japanese one right away, I actually started off on the Imperial China one. That's the one I did, and that one kind of eased me into it. And then, but yeah, the Edo period Japan, um, it can be difficult for sure. And with what you were saying about having to start all over, Live Alive isn't too good when it comes to its autosaves. It does have an autosave system, but it's not too
okay.
good with it. It only does it at significant moments. So, but if you manually save, it's just like how a lot of how Pokemon games are, where any spot you saved at, if you were to load the game up again, that's exactly where you were.
Gotcha.
You don't have to be at a specific, because I hate the RPGs and just games in general that are just like, oh, you can only save at this little glowing spot right here. Like, no,
Right. Yeah.
I want to press pause and I'll save wherever I damn well please.
Right. Yeah.
That's So
Exactly.
thankfully, Live Alive lets you do that. So yeah, I just got in the habit of saving constantly. But the Edo period Japan, that's the only one that I've actually died a few times in. Everything else I haven't really died, I want to say. Maybe once in the near future one. But otherwise, yeah, I mean it's pretty balanced, I would say. But that Edo period Japan is definitely the toughest one so far.
I
for
thought
sure.
maybe they were just cranking it up because it was a demo. It was like, what is going on? I thought maybe, I took my melatonin before I went to bed. I thought maybe it was kicking in and my brain was getting sleepy. It was like, okay, I'm just shutting this crap off and I'll try it again tomorrow. And I haven't tried it again. So, but I really want it. But at the same time, it's like, see, here's my thing now. It's like, oh, I really want this game. It's on Switch. Oh, that's awesome. Is it on Steam? Because I'd rather have it on my Steam Deck than oh, it's not because it's published by Nintendo. Okay, well.
Then he swears a couple times, gets angry, shakes his fist, and then.
Well, I mean, there's ways that I could play Switch games on there. I just haven't figured it out yet. I'm trying.
I did end up getting a physical copy of it. It's the first physical game I've gotten since
yeah,
I don't even know.
I think I'm just going to break down and buy
Has
it.
it been more than a year since you physically bought one?
Man, I'm big on art, and Live Alive has fantastic illustrations, so I had to have the physical of that. Plus, I knew that was going to be a one and done for me.
Yeah.
Like once I'm done with Live Alive, doesn't really have replay value. So
friend Eric, got it.
Gotcha. I've been squeezing out everything I can too from each story, and even then, it still doesn't take me longer than 5 hours to beat a story. They all hover around 3 to 4.
Well, see, and I like that because I don't.
Oh, I love it.
Because as much as I like a rich 100-hour RPG, I just don't have that time anymore. I just don't.
Yeah, and I know Xenoblade Chronicles 3 just came out, but I'm holding off on that for now, at least for a couple weeks, because I'm about halfway through Xenoblade Chronicles 2 now, so I want to just take care of that. Right now, that's my current feature-rich big RPG,
Right.
So, but Live Alive
You're
is
gonna finish 2 and then put quite a bit of time in between. Otherwise, you're gonna get burnt out on 3 because you're playing back to back. Wolf, that's a lot.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
that's,
well, not
that's what I did with
yeah.
Assassin's Creed. It was too much. I'd play an Assassin's Creed
Oh,
right before the next one would come out and then roll into it and be like, I'm burned out on Assassin's
you get
Creed.
exhausted. Yeah, no, there's definitely balancing there, but I think Live Alive is a nice sort of complementary RPG to something as big as Xenoblade, because Live Alive, again, it's just a lot more palatable with, having these separate short stories that are, again, only 3 to 5 hours long, depending on how you play. So, it's nice. It's easier to get through when you're on a tight schedule, and it's just such a great, fantastic RPG, honestly.
Yeah, I'm going to end up buying it. I mean, of course, I'll end up buying it because I don't just download brand new games that I don't buy. I at least try to buy them. Then I feel I feel better than putting an illegal copy of it down on my on a whole nother system to play.
Yeah. Well, that game is honestly worth buying. I hope it's been doing well. I think it has been.
I think so.
And
it's been one that's been requested for a very, very, very long time. I mean,
yeah, and I still see people talk about it, so clearly it's still getting buzz. And I just want it to be successful, not necessarily because I want another Live Alive, but I just want more games like this. I want some new IP. I don't care, but like I just give me a compilation of like short stories instead. All that sort of share a similar engine. That way you can sort of ease in from story to story. Because I think that's my favorite part about this. Also, it's not the fact that yes, these are more bite-sized RPGs or short stories, but the fact that they all share the exact same engine, mechanics, and everything. All the combat system is the same on every single one of them. The inventory management and the menus, the UIs, everything, it's the same on every single one of them. The only real difference between them is the story, the setting, and the characters, obviously. So otherwise it feels you feel comfortable going from game to game instead of having to learn a whole new set of
right,
basically learning how to play this almost like a new game all over again.
Right, and it's all voiced, which was
surprising.
Surprisingly, that really surprised me. It's like, well, let me tuck you in for some reading, and then all of a sudden it started reading it to me. I'm like, I like this a lot. That's half the battle right there for me. It's like if it's I like the story, but if I've got to do a crap ton of reading at the beginning, which most Japanese JRPGs, there's a lot of setup at the beginning of them. It's like if I've got to read it all, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting sleepy. But I need to just buy it, and I just can't decide if I mean, I want to buy it physically, of course, but it's like, do I want instant gratification? Just buy it digitally and buy it physically down the road. I know it's not going to ever be any cheaper, but I don't know if it's one of those weird limited print Switch, Nintendo print Switch things that they do.
I don't think it is.
Not
for this one. I don't think so.
Who knows? I mean, because my understanding is that this is Nintendo. It's a Square Enix game, but it's published. Nintendo did the publishing for it, so Nintendo's funny. They'll pull things like that, and then all of a sudden you'll not be able to find a copy of it anywhere forever. So
for a reasonable
$1 billion company, and they're like, no, we can't spend the money making 200,000 copies. Forget that. No, 50K at most. We'll put the resources for that. 200,000, you're crazy. We don't have the funds for that. No.
Yeah, there's a reason why I've got that. What is it? That's the expansion. One of the expansions for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I think it's 2.
Or no, that one.
Yeah, they made it physical, and I ended up buying it, and now you can't find it anywhere. It's like stupid expensive.
Very difficult to find.
Yeah, it's like. Yeah. And I bought it on a whim. It's like, oh, a DLC. Let me go ahead and buy that. And it's like, since I can get it physically, but go ahead, Dennis. What else you been playing since me and you've been talking about since we've been talking about Stray and Live a Live or Live Alive, Live a Live, Alive Alive.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, obviously we've been playing Live Alive, been playing a lot of Stray. Well, not a lot of Stray. I want to play more. It's just I'm so caught up with so much stuff that I'm reviewing at the moment that Live Alive is really the only thing I can really play at the moment.
Yeah.
That's for me, versus something that I'm tasked to do.
Right.
But these last couple of weeks since we last did the podcast, I've been squeezing in some games here and there, shorter games. But we'll start at the beginning. I finally got accepted. Finally to the Overwatch 2 beta, and it's
Overwatch 1, right?
It's Overwatch, but I'll say this though, like, jokes aside, that I like that though, because you're familiar with it right away. It was immediately easy for me to pick up. I've been playing since 2016, so 6 years now. It's crazy. It's been that long now since Overwatch has been out. But yeah, but my main goal in Overwatch 2 wasn't even so much, oh, let me see the new maps, let me see all the new things, all the balancing that they've been doing. No, no, no. I wanted to try the new heroes, and I'm absolutely in love with them. The two main ones are Junker Queen and Sojourn. Sojourn is mainly a DPS, and she kind of plays like a mix of Hanzo and Soldier 76.
Mm.
And she is fantastic. She is a fantastic hero. But really, what I clicked with the most was Junker Queen. My God, pretty much the whole time I was playing the Overwatch 2 beta, which was for a few days straight. The beta's done now, so you can't play it anymore. But man, it was like 9 times out of 10 I was playing as Junker Queen because she was fantastic. She's probably one of my new favorite tanks now, and yeah, but it's great to see her finally there because she's been around technically since whenever they released that Junkertown map, which was probably in 2018, because they've had posters of her everywhere, and she's been part of the lore. We've never physically like seen her up until recently, now that she's a new hero. So it's crazy that she's existed but never really been a thing now for the better part of 4 or 5 years. It's crazy. But they do that a lot. But I kind of like that too because it's part of their world building for Overwatch. You know, like yes, it doesn't have a story. Overwatch 2 will, but it doesn't have a traditional story. They have comics and stuff like that, but usually a lot of the lore comes from the conversations they have and environmental storytelling and things like that. And of course the events when they have those sort of predetermined PvE events. So, but yeah, Overwatch 2, long story short, has been amazing. Feels great, just like Overwatch 1 does. The UI is so clean. Everything is so nice to look at. And yeah, now granted, even though it's a beta, they didn't offer everything, so they didn't offer any of the story mode content. It was basically pure multiplayer. And and yeah, you just got to try a couple of new maps, a couple of new heroes. Um, the new mode where you have to basically push a robot back and forth, and basically whoever pushes the robot first to their side of the map wins. That one's interesting. I'm not 100% certain on what the rules are yet for that. It was just kind of happening, so I was like, whatever. I'm just gonna treat this like a team deathmatch or something and just start killing people because I'm very much all about the objective, but I honestly had no clue what the hell was happening in that mode. Uh, but I don't know. Maybe it is as simple as just maybe it's like a payload that goes both ways, which it seemed like it. But again, sometimes we'd all be around it and it wouldn't move, but the enemies wouldn't be there either. And it's just like I'm not sure what exactly do we have to give it a pat on the back? Like what's going on here? You got this, buddy. Yeah, just go ahead and move it. Yeah, come on. Your cousin Iron Giant did this years ago. Let's go. So but yeah, no. Either way, it was a fantastic time. And I can't wait for the full version to come out in October. I am a little wary about the free-to-play elements. Obviously, there will be a battle pass, so the monetization is going to be a little bit different too. They're getting rid of loot boxes, which is, depending on how you look at it, could be a pro and a con. But I've always liked the way that Overwatch handled their loot boxes, because it would never felt predatory like a lot of mobile games are, or just a lot of gotcha stuff in general. A lot of the free-to-play games are in general. Um, so hopefully the battle pass is it won't be like the loot boxes, but hopefully it's similar in the case that it doesn't feel like they're trying to nickel and dime you.
Right.
So it's I understand keeping exclusive content behind it. That's the whole point of purchasing a battle pass to begin with. But at least make it for the people who don't want to spend too much time in it. Still give them enough to work towards and still appreciate. I think Paladins, for example, which is very similar to Overwatch, has done a good job of this for years of having battle passes. Granted, they changed the structure of their battle passes. Now they're only 25 levels instead of 100 levels like a normal battle pass would be. So leveling up is a little slower, but you do get the bigger rewards much sooner. So, even though, because battle passes like this, no matter what game it is, if it's heavily reliant on skins being the draw and where they get all the attention, of course they're going to have all the awesome ones towards the end, right? Because they want you to spend the money, they want you to put the time into it, and maybe if you get impatient enough to put in a little extra cash too to bump up your experience and whatnot. So get XP boosts and whatnot. So, uh, but Paladins has always done it in what I feel is a very reasonable manner. I think there's no, again, you're a free to play game, so you're going to try to incentivize people to pay something. But there is a fine line between, what's consumer friendly and what is, just pure predatory. So, but yeah, it could go either way. Again, Overwatch has always been, I think, a well balanced game, and they've always treated their consumer base well. I can't speak to everyone, obviously, but from my experience from the last 6 years, it's one of the few games that one of the reasons why I keep coming back, because normally I don't put as much time into games like this as I do. It's there's a sense of respect there, and it gives me incentive to come back, versus feeling like I have to come back or them almost trying to persuade me to come back because of like, oh, look at all this pretty new stuff. Don't you want to come and play? It's like, no, because like even for example, something like Pokemon Unite. I love Pokemon, I love MOBAs, but even that couldn't get me to play for longer than the first month after it came out. So, and that's Pokemon that we're talking about, Pokemon, which is embedded into my DNA. Because again, there's too much that happens in some of these free-to-play games, like mobile games especially, where like, why is your screen cluttered with stuff? You know what I mean? You have 4 or 5 different currencies. Why? Just have a free currency and a premium currency. I hate when there's like 10 different currencies. Oh, this is for the event. Oh, this is for your upgrades. Oh, this is for, the stuff in the free store. This is for the premium stuff in the store. This is for strictly for battle pass stuff. This is strictly for settings, and stuff like that. Why? Just keep
You
it
know why.
We
intuitive.
all know.
I know why. I know why. Yeah, but it clutters the screen, and it's just a pain, and it quite frankly it overwhelms me when there's like 10 different menus. They all have some different thing to claim. Like, oh, you participate in 3 matches. Okay, now I have to redeem things from 4 separate tabs. Because that was like the request. That was like a quest for that was your daily, but that was also your weekly, but then that was also your your monthly quest, but then that was also your anniversary quest, then that was also the event quest. It's like, oh my god, stop. Just
Yeah.
I don't know, it drives me crazy when screens and stuff are cluttered like that. But yeah, anyways, without going too much into it, it's a fantastic game so far. It feels like Overwatch. So if you love Overwatch, you're gonna love Overwatch too. But yeah, hopefully now that it's free to play, more people will spend more time into it and spend more time with it and get into it more. But I'm also worried that because it will be free to play, you're gonna have these people that are, well, just with any free to play, because anyone and everyone can play it because there's not a paywall.
Right.
People aren't gonna be as cautious with the things that they say and the things that they do. You're probably going to have a lot of griefers. You're going to have a lot of people saying ridiculous things in the chat, and they don't care if they get banned because then they'll just make another account. It's free.
Right.
It costs them nothing. So I like having those paywalls. I guess it's nice having, being free, but at the same time, I'd rather it just be a one and done purchase. Like Overwatch has always been. The only, sort of microtransaction they have, again, is those loot boxes, and they don't feel predatory at all because they're just there in the corner. Otherwise, you can get everything that you're getting through events with the coins that you get through those loot boxes, which are given out pretty, graciously. And yeah, so yeah, but we'll see. We'll see what happens in October. But yeah, that's what I've been playing Overwatch 2 beta. In addition to that, a smaller game, much smaller game. I played a little game called The Long Return on my Switch. I was in the mood for just a short, relaxing walking simulator or a puzzle game, and this was pretty much both. You play as this little cub, and you go on this journey basically, and you go through a couple of levels, and it's heavily puzzle based. At first, I didn't know what was going on because you don't do puzzles out in the world per se. You walk up to these sort of like totems, and once you interact with them, it puts you in this little puzzle screen, and then you can sort of just move tiles and stuff until your little light ball goes to what's considered the exit, and then that's considered completing the level.
Sounds like half of The Witness, where you have like just the like
Yeah,
puzzle station part of The Witness,
yeah,
kind of like that. Yeah.
yeah. That's actually a good comparison. Yeah, yeah, pretty much like that, except not nearly as good.
Well, sure.
Yeah, because the long return, honestly, I don't want to say it was bad because I beat it, and clearly I enjoyed it enough to see it all the way through, you know. But man, it's an indie game. It's an indie game because it is. First of all, it's cheap. I got it for maybe 99 cents or $2 on the eShop forever ago, and it might have even been free because sometimes they do those sort of promotions where if you own this game, you get this one for free. For some of the publishers. But yeah, just play this cub. You play as this cub, and you just do these puzzles, and you go through it. And but the physics are ridiculous. It's super buggy. I mean, I actually went off the map because there's this weird thing you can do where if you jump and land almost diagonally, like let's just say your head is faced forward, but you're on a slope, for some reason you go up that slope rather than down. And so I was literally traversing mountains because I was doing this and just seeing the entirety of the level, which I mean, I love breaking games. I do this on purpose. Most people would probably just wouldn't do this, but I know. I love, whenever I play any game, if I feel like there's an area that I can clip through, I'm going to try clipping through it. I don't know why. I just find it fascinating. It's cool because in a weird way, you kind of get this sort of behind the scenes, right, of the game. So by breaking it in a weird sense, uh, but yeah, I was doing that, and yeah, I reached the edge of the map. I took a video and I even posted it on Twitter, and yeah, I reached the edge of the map, and then I jumped off of it, and then I just fell. It was just an infinite fall, into nothingness. But thankfully there was a reset button, so I reset and respawned back to where I needed to be. But yeah, it's not a long game. You just kind of go through it. You do these puzzles. It can get boring after a while, but if you need like a nice little short little puzzle slash walking simulator, it's cute. It's fine. But there's definitely better games out there, for sure. But it scratched the itch, and I can't complain. It was cheap, and you can find it on sale all the time on the eShop. So, if you see it for 99 cents for $2, I would not pay more than that. And you're in the mood for a short little, small little puzzle game slash walking simulator. Try it out. It's not bad. The environments are nice too. You go through this little mountainous, snowy area, and then you go through an area that has a lot of scenery, like a lot of greenery and stuff like that. Then you get one that's more rocky. Then you get one that's more foresty. And yeah, that's it. 2 to 3 hours and you're done. I mean, it's not it's not long at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, the game's broken, and it's admittedly it could have been better. But again, for the price that I paid, I'm not complaining. It's whatever.
Right.
But yeah, after that, another indie game, but one that was very good, called Worse Than Death. This is made by a sole developer. His name is Benjamin Rivers, and he also made two other games that I loved, and I played them on Vita. I platinumed them on Vita. One is called Alone with You, a sci-fi romance adventure, they called it. And the other one is called Home. Home, much like this, Worse Than Death, is a horror game, and that one was pretty scary actually for being something that's mainly pixel art. But Alone with You felt more desolate, and you felt like you were stranded because you were on this space station that there was no one there. I mean, but you were finding notes and stuff, and the story was sort of being told through these notes and the files that you would find and stuff like that. And you went through all of this as you would expect, a very, spacey environment. And it was really, really cool. it was really cool, and it sort of tugs on the heartstrings a little bit by the end, actually. Um, but I've been a big fan of this guy for a long time. I didn't realize this was his game until after I bought it, because I noticed on the publisher page on the eShop, I was like, that dude's name sounds familiar. And then when I looked it up, I was like, oh, that's right. He did all these other games that I absolutely loved, and I platinumed both of them as well. So, yeah, it was on sale for $2, and normally it's $10. And yeah, it was maybe a solid 4 hours, and had a great time with it. It was scary. It was honestly scary. I mean, it's he has a good taste in what makes horror work without being too cheesy or feeling like it's trying too hard, right? The atmosphere definitely takes precedent over everything else. But then when not necessarily jump scares, but when the bigger, more spontaneous moments happen, they're more impactful. And he made every single one of those moments count, and worse than death. And yeah, it's got a cool little story where you just play as this girl. Her name is I already forgot her name, Lydia, something like that. And you go with your friend to a high school reunion party. And you go meet everyone at the high school reunion, and your friend, his name is Flynn, I believe. He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go out for a bit." You're like, "Okay." And then so you feel like you need to go to the bathroom or something, or you want to just go upstairs just to kind of take a look. You're like, "Oh, I haven't been here in years." So you kind of take a look around, but then when you come back down, you start hearing all these noises, and everyone's kind of just gone, right? Everything turns very dark, and there's just a monster sort of perusing, almost Resident Evil 2 style, because it's just one monster the whole time. So, but this monster just kind of perusing the hallways, and so you got to hide, and you got to figure out puzzles this way as well, and you go through a couple different environments, but it all sort of ties back together at the high school. And yeah, it's just a really cool story. The atmosphere is great. The pixel art was fantastic. The puzzles were pretty good for the most part. Some pissed me off. Some were like, this doesn't make any sense at all. But 90% of them, I would say, were pretty solid and very clever as well. There was only one that I had to look up because I was like, I don't know what's happening here. Where do you find the answer for this?
Plug the station wagon into the refrigerator. Duh, come on.
Yeah.
It's logical.
There was some weird ones like that too. Even things where you thought you had the answer for. Like there was one where there was a note next to this padlocked fence, and the padlock had symbols on it. And it was like the note had basically said, you know, our love told in chapters, something like that. And then, but you can't go through it. You don't know what to do with this at the moment. But then, as you're going through what eventually turns into a graveyard, you go into these, I don't want to call it a tomb, but this sort of, I guess more of a crypt, really. You walk into a crypt, and these coffins have symbols on them. And they're set in a certain order of like, oh, this is when we first met. This is our first date. This is when we married. This is, you know, when we died, whatever. This is when we had kids, whatever. So, and you just kind of put them in order. And I was under the impression that you just, again, as the note said, more or less, it's the order of the love of our lives, or something like that. So it made sense to me. I was just like, oh, okay, so this, okay. So basically, the first symbol, the fourth symbol, the third symbol, the fifth symbol, and then the second symbol. Okay, cool. I put it in that order. Wasn't unlocking. Huh. Okay. All right. Let me try again. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it's done this way. Maybe if they word it this way, maybe it works this way. Did it that way? No. And I was like, well, okay, well then there's no other way that really makes sense. I looked it up, and the actual answer, I was like, what? This person must have been dyslexic or something because this is not the order that like what was going on here. This was not the order of the chapter of your love of your lives or something. I didn't know what was happening. It was just like, and then two of them had the same symbol. I was like, wait a second,
Secretly,
not
you have to put it in the Tarantino movie order, and it just didn't tell you that.
Probably. Or like some like Legend of Zelda timeline, some like
Yeah.
nonsense like that. But yeah, but I was like, whatever. If that's the answer, that's the answer. Sure, we'll roll with it. Because coming up with the answer seemed logical to me, but apparently the answer wasn't it. And I was like, all right, whatever. I don't know what chapters you're talking about. I don't know what book you're reading, but yeah, it's not this book. So, uh, but yeah, anyways, Worse Than Death is a fantastic game. If you haven't played any of Benjamin Rivers' games, play them all, please. Home is fantastic. Alone with You is fantastic, and Worse Than Death is fantastic. They're all relatively short too. Great bite-sized indie games with a lot of polish and a lot of quality as well. The stories are great and really unique settings that don't feel cliche at all. Like he's very good at making the familiar still feel fresh. So, but yeah. In addition to that, speaking of puzzles, since everything's been so heavily puzzle based, I played Relicta. I actually owned this game on Steam for a while now, and I kept installing it and reinstalling it, and but it finally became. It was free with gold, I think, either last month or the month before.
It's right now. It's free right now.
Oh,
if
it's
you have
right
gold.
now. Oh,
Yeah, it's
okay.
right now. Yeah.
Gotcha. So
Because I didn't realize it, and this morning I was like, "Oh, I haven't got my gold games yet," and then I clicked and went, "Oh, wait, that's the one that Dennis put in the show notes."
yeah. It'd been on my radar for a bit. I've owned it for a while, and like I said, I've installed it, then uninstalled it, then reinstalled it on Steam because I was always, like, oh, maybe now I can finally play that. I'm in a puzzle mood. I'll play that. I'll play that. But then I just never get around to it. But finally, I sat down and I was like, no, I'm playing this. I uninstalled it again. I uninstalled it again. Now, for starters, let me just say, it's not a bad game. It's just very tedious, and for how long it is, which is longer than it had any right to be. I thought it was going to be a 2-hour game, something like that. Nah, man, this game just keeps going. And it did not need to because this game is tedious where you just go around picking up blocks and putting them in the right place. And it doesn't sound difficult, but the tedious part comes from getting them through these barriers because you can do three things with these blocks. You can make them red, you can make them blue, and you can make them levitate. Now, the red and blue, respectively, are basically negative and positive, right? Magnetism, right? So let's just say you have two reds or two blues together, they're going to repel from each other, right? But if you have two blocks, one's a red, one's a blue, they're going to smash into each other because that's just how that works. So, but yeah, and then there's the levitating function as well. Now you can use these to move the blocks around, whether you're standing on them or just trying to, repel them from each other so they go separate directions in the directions that you need them to because there's other blocks there. And then you pick them up and set them there because you can't jump very high, so you need to do things like these to make sure they travel to where they need to go to. And it's just a lot of this back and forth nonsense that I just hate in games and really just real life in general. I'm a straightforward kind of guy. I just like take me from A to B to C to D. The only time I like back forth stuff is Metroidvanias because at least in Metroidvanias, when you're going back, you're still making progress because
right.
if you were trying to do that to begin with, you wouldn't have been able to anyways because you can't access that area yet. So with Metroidvanias, you get a new sort of ability or a key or something to finally unlock a door or a pathway, whatever, and then you can finally go that way. Even though it was in the beginning of the game, you're still making progress. So I don't mind back forth in something like Metroidvanias because the design is really, really well done. But generally speaking, it gives me a headache. Why can't we just go from A to B to C and just do it that way? Not the case here. So unfortunately, it just wasn't for me, and I just after a while I just had to install it. I tried to give it a chance, and it was good. For the beginning portions of it, but as they added more and more, it's like, dude, I've spent 45 minutes on this level, and not because it's difficult, but because we're literally having to move so many things. Like, I just want to. I'm tired of looking at these blocks.
The video to me looks like it should have been a VR game.
Yeah, I think it would have been better as a VR game, honestly. But even so, well, actually, no, it would have definitely been better as a VR game because at least you feel like you're doing more with the picking up and the placing because that's really all it is. Just pick up a block, place it here, and then
it's that
unlock
weird
the door.
walking like this with my arms out in front of me. It's like
What, you don't walk like that all the
Yeah,
time?
it's one of
Come on.
those.
Frankenstein.
Yeah,
It's like-
Oh, gosh.
yeah, it's a mess, honestly. Um, but and it could have been better. It could have been good, but it was just too much of. It felt too repetitive. Now the environments were really cool. Like the parts that really struck me the most, and I wish they utilized them more or spent more time with them, were the actual story portions in between puzzles. Because in between going from snowy areas to more luscious areas, you're in this space station. Everything that happened in the space station was super interesting. Um, and I would have loved to have seen more than that, but you're only ever in there for a short period of time before you go back out and have to do 100 more puzzles that are just the same thing over and over again, and it just became annoying. It just wasn't rewarding. It wasn't engaging enough, and yeah, so unfortunately, I just had to uninstall it, and I just had to admit to myself, even though I wanted to beat it, I wanted to keep playing it, but I was like, man, I'm sorry, I'm just not having fun.
Another great
Um,
free Games for Gold game.
Yeah, yeah. But oh well. But it was fine for what I did play. But more power to the people who do enjoy it and did
Right.
end up beating it. But there's much better puzzle games out there that are well worth your time over this. So. But yeah, and then lastly, Azure Striker Gunvolt 3, been playing that on the Switch, and
I
Oh, yeah.
love the
it
Gunvolt
is
series. Love those games.
Yeah.
yeah, oh yeah. So, if for anyone who loves Mega Man, its production is overseen by Keiji Inafune, the creator of Mega Man, and so those games very much feel similar to them, but definitely a lot more modern and a lot more polished. And they emphasize more the action than Mega Man does. Because there's stuff happening everywhere. It's almost, in a weird way, almost like half bullet hell too, because it's just the amount of
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
that's happening all
Frenetic,
over the screen.
yeah, the first one.
Yeah, it gets frenetic. So, but man, Azure Striker Gunvolt 3, for anyone who has any sort of familiarity or history with that series, including the spin-offs like Luminous Gunvolt and Mighty Gunvolt and things like that, this is, because I've played a few of them, this is arguably, I think, their best yet. I mean, and not just because it's the new one, but just everything that they've done in terms of approachability and just the intuitive nature of it, and everything just simply makes sense in this game. And yeah, the level designs are fantastic. The balancing is really, really good. It never feels too hard, never feels too easy. It feels just right, and it gives you a lot of chances too. I like the idea that you can upgrade your character and who you play as Karen this time around. You usually play as Gunvolt in the other ones. But yeah, this time
Right.
you play as a new character. Her name is Karen. Gunvolt's still there. He's still technically playable, but he's more of like a side character. So you have to build up a certain gauge first, up to 100%. Then you press ZR, I think, and then you can shift into him, and he's very, very powerful. And there's story reasons for that. They didn't just make him not playable or somewhat playable because of like, oh, well, let's just have a new character. We want to revolutionize everything. Like, story-wise, it makes sense. So, but yeah, even the new character, she's great. She plays very different from Gunvolt though, so don't expect to be as spammy as you were with Gunvolt. You definitely have to be a little more. I don't want to say strategic, but just a little more aware with Karen, because she mainly throws out these seals, these sort of cards, almost like Gambit from X-Men, and like these cards or whatever. But that doesn't do damage itself. You do have a sword that does a lot of damage, but the more seals or the more cards, whatever, that you put on an enemy or on a surface, whatever, the more damage that will be done when you do slash with your sword. So it's almost like a combo builder. You can just, you know, unload on somebody, put all five, six, however many of your seals on there. They do grow over time, and then just pretty much, just unleash hell, basically. Just do crazy amounts of damage. And there's so many special moves that each character has. You can change them as well, depending on your attachments, because it has a weird sort of gacha system also, where you can just collect these various emblems and characters from level to level, and you can attach them as allies, sort of, and they work as sort of passives or buffs. And yeah, you can utilize their special abilities too. So not only do you have your own special ability, but you can press like right trigger and then up to initiate, some other they call them adepts, some other adepts, special ability and stuff like that. Powerful moves. I usually save them for once you reach the end of the level and fight the boss. That way I can just, you know, unleash massive damage on them. But yeah, no, I mean the levels are fantastic. It's fully voiced in English, anyways, which is the first time they've done that for the series.
Right.
And yeah, you can just tell the production quality has gone up tenfold with this one, and they've really knocked it out of the park. It's the best Gunvault game yet, and yeah, great story, great art, great level design. I mean, I can't say enough great things about it. It is a fantastic action platformer, and yeah, and if you're a fan of the series in general, even if you've never gotten into it, you can still jump into this no problem without having any prior history. But if you're a fan of the series and do have history, oh man, you're gonna fall in love with this. It's great.
Yeah, I love that series. It is really good.
Yeah, but yeah, that's everything I've been playing.
Cool. Nathaniel, you've been playing a couple that I've been interested in. One I even forgot I had. Totally forgot I had the Hot Wheels DLC.
Yeah, we'll start with Forza Horizon 5 Hot Wheels, which I was dumb thinking, oh, hey, they'll just update the game since people will have to see cars and stuff, of forgetting that it has like a whole other map and stuff. So I went in there. They have the thing. You can go to Hot Wheels. It plays the trailer. It's like, go install it or go buy it in the store. I'm like, okay, whoops. Okay, I got to go download something else. I'll be back in like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many gigs it was.
It's almost 12 because I downloaded it this afternoon. It was like 11.28 or something like that.
That's big for an expansion like that.
Yeah, it is.
That's
it's big. I
mean, bigger than a lot of other games.
Pretty decent sized new map, and all of the like new voiceover and all the stuff that goes with it. So
does it feel different from Horizon 3? Because I was kind of upset when they announced it.
I did not play Horizon 3 Hot Wheels, so I can't compare it. So I don't know.
Okay. Because I was like, oh man, this is like they're doing this again. Like, I mean, I'm sure they've made it feel different, but I was like, I was kind of hoping for something really, just kind of like, whoa, like we're going to the moon, like something like that.
So what it is it's kind of supposedly like this big old island that's in the air above Mexico, and you're like going to Hot Wheels Park or whatever they call it, and then you're going around on all the tracks and. Like, hey, look, you have to go get all these cool collectibles and things here that you did on the Mexico map. Like, you can smash some XP signs, and they have like these new balloons you can get that you have to go off some of the jumps to hit them, or go off the sides of a track to hit these balloons to smash them. But then there's all like the regular races and types of stuff that you unlock slowly. And they have a progression system. You start with like B, so you can only drive B level cars, and then once you like do all the different things to like rank that up, you can do A events, and you can drive A level cars on the map, etc. and so forth. I made it up to I just unlocked the S1 as far as I've gotten, so I've done quite a few different things on here. I played maybe 2 to 3 hours or so of it. I haven't put tons of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not bad. Like it's kind of set up where there's different zones. So you have kind of like the snowy, icy zone. You have kind of like a jungly zone with waterfalls and stuff, and you have one that's more kind of like desert, mesa type environment, and they're all in kind of like separate pieces. And then as you go off, kind of some of the tracks are bridges in between, and it's just like nothing. you would fall however many hundreds of feet this is supposed to be up in the air. But you're driving on different tracks, and they do loop-de-loops, and you have magnet tracks and things. You have some like log flume watery type tracks. You have fans that make you go faster, boost track thingies, and some places will make you go faster. Just different Hot Wheelsy type things.
Yeah, looks cool. I totally forgot.
Story mission things or whatever, where it's like telling you the history of Hot Wheels is a bunch of baloney.
Oh.
Like the first one kind of has a little bit of like, oh, hey, so and so, created Hot Wheels back in the day, but then it's like every event after that is like, hey, this year they brought out this, Hot Wheels set and these collector cars, and it was super cool, right? And it's like, no, like I'm not listening to you. I'm just driving this event. I was like, after the first one was okay, I was like, it was fine, and then after that, I was just like, you're not telling me anything interesting here. Not like, because
That
they did the
sounds to
same with kind of
me-
the Volkswagen stuff, Beetle stuff or whatever in the main game,
Yeah.
and that stuff was actually more interesting. Whereas this is just like, yo, Hot Wheels sponsored us. Did you know about these versions?
Yeah. Selling it's like a
Yeah, that sounds
1980s
to me-
cartoon.
Yeah, that sounds to me like it's just a really elaborate like just promotional material basically for like
Yeah.
or just marketing for the stuff that came out this year basically.
A little bit, but it's more like historically, like in 1980 something, the so line came out, but it was highly sought after by collectors because it was rare, whatever. Like I
Yeah.
just in one ear, out the other. I was just more like,
Right.
oh, this is a cool route you're making me drive. I'll do that
Yeah.
while you're talking at me and I'm not paying attention.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But then there's all like just other different races that you're doing, and then like the exploration type stuff that they have in there. There's quite a bit to it, but it's all very much like you start with a Bone Shaker Hot Wheel car, and then you unlock some other Hot Wheel themed cars. But like you can drive any car that you have in your collection up there as long as you've unlocked that level. So if you're if you've unlocked up to S1, I could drive up to S1 rank cars now on that map. Because I think they probably start you on like the slower ones.
Yeah.
Well, for two reasons. One, just because it's like all the loop-de-loop stuff to keep you used to it. Start out a little bit slower, but then also giving a progression system for you to kind of work through things also makes sense to kind of guide you to all the different things. Because within one of those menus, it's like, okay, complete all the rank A races and go get these collectibles that you unlocked and go do these, danger signs and speed zones that we unlocked for the A level cars, whatever. That's kind of how each one, and whenever you complete one of those things, you get sort of like XP towards the next unlocking the next tier. So I like that it's structured. It's a little more structured than what like just the main game is, where it's just like, hey, here's a bunch of stuff, cool, go do it. You have the whole menu of all the different things, and you can like, hey, go do this thing, and some of them will unlock cars or collectibles, and some won't. But it's like, okay, it's just a big menu that you can fill. Whereas this one, it's structured a little bit more like, okay, you're progressing forward and getting more and more, speedy as you go.
Right.
So yeah, it was just fun. I probably wouldn't have bought it, but since I had it from buying the whatever deluxe upgrade thing, whatever it's called, way back at launch, so I could play it on the week early or whatever it was. Then it's like this is included in it, so I was like, oh
Right.
yeah, I'll try it out. Why not?
Yeah.
End up playing it a little longer than I thought I was going to at first. So yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
I just wish they'd done a little bit more tongue-in-cheek silliness. Because it's very much just like, hey, we have human-sized cars up here in this giant track in the sky. I wish they had done something where it's like either everybody went through a shrink ray gun and now you're on a real Hot Wheels track, or they're just like controlling them remotely somehow. Like, oh man, we got these special ones where you can steer it still, like whatever dumb story conceit. But if instead of the environment is like, hey, this just looks like cool jungle and all these things at normal scale, what if it was you're like running through a living room and you're going through past like something that looks like a giant sofa because you're like Hot Wheels size? That would be cool. Maybe the next time they do get sponsored by Hot Wheels in another 2 games, they'll do that.
They'll have the Hot Wheels thing. I remember it had a crank on the top of it, and you put the car, you turn the crank, and it had make the thing spin on the inside and go vroom, 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 and you throw the car in it and launch it out. Maybe they have a big hand of God come down and twist that thing and then throw your car into it and shoot you out. Or do the crisscross crash. I remember that one. That was good too.
I mean, it's not set like just the conceit of the Horizon games. It's like you can't really have a festival, or like you could, I guess, and be like, hey, we set up all these Hot Wheels tracks that you can control remotely, and it just happens to be when you're playing the game. They could totally do that if they wanted to. It's just not what they're doing. It's like, what if they just did a standalone Hot Wheels game, but put all the Forza technology behind it? They probably wouldn't want to spend that much money on it. They've got other studios doing the standalone Hot Wheels games.
Okay, I was going to say, I knew they did something with Hot Wheels in 4, but that was just the cars, was all that was a download pack for the cars.
Oh, was that 4 or 3? Well, no.
4.
3 on the Hot Wheels pack, but then they probably just like, hey, we've got these left over, we'll put them in 4 and get some money from it.
Yeah,
probably
I couldn't remember if they actually had like the tracks and stuff or not. It was just the cars in 4. So
I forget what the expansions for 4 were now. It was
I
like,
don't remember either. It's been
Oh
a
man,
while.
I didn't actually play them, so it's kind of like I remember
Yeah,
seeing it
I
and
didn't
forgot
play them
about it.
either. So
I
yeah,
just played the main game
I remember there was something
before.
Hot Wheels with it. I just couldn't remember what it was, so I had to look it up real quick. So
But yeah, I mean, this is just like it's still Forza Horizon 5, so
Yeah.
it drives, like that, and it's really, really fun. It's just you're on crazy big orange and blue tracks in the sky.
Hey, why not?
Oh, you're on an ice track now, so you're slipping and sliding everywhere.
Sure, why not?
My favorite so far, though, has been the race that was basically a log flume where you're starting at the top and you go, and there's some sections of track that have like kind of the middle is water and then the outside edges don't. But if you stay in the water, you're just like going really fast and you kind of like have to drift almost a little bit to go around corners, or if you want to do it well, you can. It's just really fun.
Yeah,
Plus, the car they give you there for that one is really goofy looking. It's like a really long car that happens to have like two surfboards in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So you have like the engine compartment, and it's almost like, not this exactly the same shape, but kind of like the hot dog mobile, like Oscar Mayer Wienermobile,
okay, yeah.
sort of that kind of a shape vehicle.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's meant to look like a log flume when you're doing that race.
Makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Not quite, but close enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fun. If you like Forza Horizon 5 and the Hot Wheels stuff, if you want another map to go running around and doing stuff on, that's what this is. So
Yeah, cool.
it's not like it's something super surprising or inventive, but it's still fun. Good.
Yeah.
I also played. I've played the first 2 chapters of As Dusk Falls.
Okay.
Which is on Game
in this
Pass.
game, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a bit interested in that. I installed it as well.
It's a game that, like, I get why the reaction to it in trailers wasn't so great, because it doesn't present well that way, but playing it is fine. It's very much a choose your own adventure story.
Mm-hmm.
But unlike, say, Telltale games or anything else like that, where you still have kind of a traditional gameplay kind of component where you're actually walking a character around and stuff, this is not it. It's a lot more, it's kind of like halfway between kind of like a Telltale game and then kind of a game where it's like the live action footage stuff that, like, you're picking different paths and stuff. It's kind of halfway in between those.
Oh, okay, I got you, yeah.
Because I think they probably shot a lot of this stuff, because it looks like they did camera shots, and I haven't looked in behind the scenes, so maybe this is exactly what they did or maybe not. But it looks like they took actual, like, maybe not video, but at the very least they took stills of real people and actors doing stuff and then did illustrations of it. Because it'll be like, here's like one thing, and then as the scene progresses you'll kind of like crossfade over into another one, or things will move slightly, but it's very much an illustrated look to it, but very realistic illustrated.
Yeah,
it's kind of an interesting take.
Yeah, there was something that I saw. It was like they took pictures and then they put them in the computer and it made it look like they were painted, but they're all like pictures of the actual actors or something like that. I'm not
it
even
seems like they could do that where you do kind of like the painting filter or whatever, watercolor filter in Photoshop, something kind of like that. But it looks better than just like doing it straight up that way. They certainly had to clean up some stuff, and there's animations in there minimally, or like sometimes for big moments, like say a car swerves off the road, that you'll actually kind of have like a thing that sort of moves a bit for a little bit. But it's very, very stylized, and it's very much like, it looks kind of like an animated comic book, almost like what you would see for when they do kind of that style thing. It's sort of that style, just like very, realistic in the illustration. It's not super stylized or anything. It's very much like, nope, this is exactly what you would see if your eyeballs saw illustrations instead of real life texture. It's just like no exaggerated proportions or cartoony characters or anything like that. It's very much, and for good reason, because it's a very serious story they're telling. It's not fun per se, in that like, hey, we're space marines going to kill some aliens or something. It's not that kind of story. It's very much, they even have a warning at the beginning talking about this deals with serious topics like mental health and suicide, and I forget, there's like 4 or 5 of them that they list at the very beginning, kind of a content warning. Nothing that I've seen so far has been too bad. Like family conflict was another one. So you have 2 characters that I've controlled so far, and I don't know if one of them was just like you did it a one-off in the intro or not, because it's almost like you have 2 different groups of characters, and so in the intro you're playing one from each group, sort of, and then sort of halfway through chapter 1, those 2 groups come together and collide in bad ways. I'm trying to be vague because it's very much just like, this is a story game, so if you know the story, it might ruin some of it.
Right.
But the way they do choices and stuff and then show you at the end is really cool. So you have basically a flow chart that you see at the end where you see like, okay, the big things that aren't really a choice, but like big moments or whatever, are kind of like an icon. So you see kind of like a screenshot from that, but then it'll flow off, and then it might have 2 branches from that, and it'll highlight the one that you actually took, and it'll, so basically anything you've done is in color and you have like the screenshots, but then you still have all the blank ones that you can see, so you can be like, oh, okay, if I'd done this, there's this whole other branch of decisions that I didn't get to see because I took this path and I did good at this or whatever. So it's very interesting, and I don't know, I'd probably play through it at least twice just to kind of see what happens, because there's a lot of stuff where, oh, I had the good result here or just a specific result, and so it went straight on to this other part of the story. But if I'd had the other thing that would gone on this branch down here, it split off in a bunch of other things and then met up where I eventually got to anyway. So it's just the way that the story is told looks like there's several variations in there that could be really cool.
Well, the co-op interests me too, where it's like 8-player co-op.
Yeah, because you can either play with a controller or your phone.
Yeah.
I haven't tried the phone, but you can do either one. So it seems kind of like a few other games have tried doing that. So it seems very much probably like you're like voting on or something. I don't know, since I haven't tried it out. But...
Yeah, there's like, I know there's a Twitch element to it too, that if you stream it, you can your Twitch. Chat
they have like streamer
stuff.
mode that you can do, so it'll like mute music that you wouldn't want to stream, but you could choose to either play it as like by yourself or co-op mode when you're starting the chapters and stuff. So
your audience vote and stuff, which is kind of cool. So
the characters are really cool. The story that it's telling is like well told so far, and it's like kind of setting up like an interesting, some interesting conflicts, a little bit of a mystery in there of like what exactly is going on, and you're like learning a few things here and there, and different things will happen based on like what you choose to do, or even they do have some quick time events in there. So like, hey, swipe up to do this thing. It doesn't happen super often, and they have accessibility controls, so you could turn that stuff. Either, I don't remember if you could turn it all the way off for QuickTime events, but you can definitely change. You can choose which type it only does, and you can have it like get rid of all like rapid button press ones. You can have it to do only hold button ones. That kind of stuff. You can tweak it a little bit in there. You can extend the timer goes to be like it's always 20 seconds or whatever.
That's good if you're doing one of those plays over like streaming it and over
streaming it might even be
xCloud,
different, because if you're streaming it, if they are interacting with it, there's going to be a delay of however long from that. So I don't know if that mode works different. I just know from the single player.
Yeah. Well, plus being able to adjust the QuickTime events and stuff. If you're playing it on xCloud, you can adjust for lag and stuff like that too, which is always nice. So.
Yeah, I mean, the QuickTime events are not difficult at all, because they have, at least all the ones I've seen so far, is basically like a circle icon on the screen, and then the timer is like a green outline around that's slowly going around
so
and running out. So that's when you have like a timer, and sometimes you'll have 2 or 3 in a row. Sometimes there'll just be one thing.
It's not like press A, press B, press C.
Yeah.
It's like...
No. It's always, believe, just the A button and then the control stick if you're doing like a direction thing. I don't think you do multiple different buttons. It's probably because for the phone it would either be swipe a direction or just tap your screen is what I'm assuming it would be. So they couldn't do multiple buttons without it being crazy for phones.
Right. It's on my list. It's downloaded on my system. It will be played.
Yeah, it's worth playing. Just be aware that, there's some serious stuff in there. So it's not like too crazy yet, but I could see where, like, because of where the story's going, by the time I get more than 2 chapters in, who knows? It could go any number of directions. It could be intense.
Yeah.
It's not a happy-go-lucky, cool adventure story. It's very much like, hey, serious drama. There's like, you know, hostage situation here or this or that. So it's like you could see how like, okay, well, depending on what choices I make or if I do poorly, it might go poorly for me, and who knows. I have no idea if characters can die or not. I have no idea. I haven't really looked into it other. Just played the first 2 chapters and enjoyed it.
Yeah, cool. It's on my list to play, so I've downloaded it. So just need to.
Yeah, if you like that, the choose your own adventure style kind of narrative story type games, it's definitely worth trying out, especially if you have Game Pass. Like, whatever,
why
install
not?
it. If you don't like it, uninstall it. Done.
Pretty much, yeah, absolutely. So.
I've also put some more time into Elix. I think I'm like 25 hours into that one or something now. It's very much a big RPG, like I said last time. I've met all 3 of the factions now, and I just joined one today. And I had a big old major choice was made. This will change how the story goes forward. Some kind of message like that on screen. I'm like, yeah, but the problem with Elix is all 3 factions kind of suck. And I think they do that on purpose to make it a difficult choice for like, oh man, which one do I want to side with?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, so this faction, they hate technology. So if you use any technology in anywhere around them in their kind of city, any random NPC will yell at you for it, for like, hey, you should be using technology, or go throw that in the pit, or like they have a bunch of different things they'll say. You never actually get in trouble for it because maybe for if you're pulling out like a ray gun or something you would, but if you're the main menu system in that game for where you get your inventory, where you're looking at your quest log, where you're looking at your map, is all in some sort of technology implant you have. So it's like an in-game thing that pops up technically. Even though it doesn't really look, it's not like Dead Space or something where it really looks like it's an environment. It's still just like a menu on screen, but technically the characters in world can see you using it. So anytime they're like, hey man, I want to check this quest or go to another one and see, you know, where it is on my map, they'll yell at you for it, like, hey, you shouldn't be using technology. So it's like, okay, you're annoying, you suck. But they're trying to restore the world by, you know, growing these things that will like bring nature back. So that's kind of cool. Then there's a faction that's basically a big religious cult, but they have all the technology and the cool fancy ray guns and shiny armor. Well, technically they have all that stuff with red lights on it. Then the bad guys have almost a lot of the same type of stuff with blue lights. They just turned their RGB color selector to the, you know, red or blue. And then there's another faction that's the outlaw faction that they're basically just like, yo, let's make profit and we'll like stab anyone in the back. And it's just like, none of them are great factions that you would ever want to, you know, really work with.
Right, yeah.
But hey, I'll do all your quests and then I'll just like, you know, not join you at the very last quest if I really want to get all my quest XP from you guys. But hey, it's a post-apocalypse kind of a game, so everybody sucks. That's the lesson here in Elix, I guess.
Yeah.
But hey, I've got a sword that does okay damage now. You level up very slowly in that game. I've played 25 hours-ish or so, and I think I'm level 13 and a half.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is slow.
And like you get some XP for killing creatures and stuff, but most of your XP is for completing quest lines.
Yeah.
And like you're like, oh wow, I just got 500 XP. Then you go look at your bar and you're like, that didn't move very far for 500 XP. What is the economy in this game?
Of course. Wonder what max level is. 20?
No, it's way higher than that. It's just you got to grind for it because you can get some potions that will give you XP or different. You can get ones that will give you kind of like attribute points, that kind of stuff too, other than just raw XP. So there's other ways to get it. It's an old school like European developer RPG where it's like it's gonna take you time to do this. You got to grind it out in a different way than you grind it out in a JRPG, but there's still grind here.
Yeah, wow.
And hey, if you run against anybody with like super cool laser rifles, don't try and attack them with your sword. It's not going to go well. Maybe get some better equipment first, then go back there and try attack them.
Yeah.
Nice, who would have thought?
Yeah.
But no, it's fun. It's very much just kind of like double A level kind of indie RPG type thing, which, you know, it's similar to what they've done with their other games. So, you know, if you played any of the Piranha Bytes games, you kind of know what you're going to get.
Yeah. Cool.
I'm interested to see once I finish this one and then play Elix 2, how much better it's supposed to be. Because from what I've read, it's supposed to have improved quite a bit. So that'll be cool. But it'll be a while till I get there because I probably won't want to go play them back to back.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Burn out again. So.
Yeah.
All right, but that's pretty much what I've been playing.
Cool. All right, Eric. So what have you been playing?
I'm up. I haven't been playing very much. Only some stuff I bought recently on. They had a big sale on Xbox, so it's stuff that was on 360. Except for Power Wash Simulator, I played a little bit of that. You guys are right. That's kind of fun. Very like.
It is very cool. I like
watching stuff, just like getting on the car. So I've only played like maybe half an hour, but it's definitely fun.
Yeah, I just did the
Definitely
first two things.
Yeah, it's definitely the it game for simulator games right now. Everybody likes that Power Wash Simulator.
I don't know. It's probably because it's just like, just easy to play and
it's
kind of
laid
fun.
back and
you're just like pop it in, play for like 10 minutes or so. You're like, all right, feeling pretty good. Yeah, the only other two things I've really been playing is I already own this. I already own Double Dragon Neon on PS4, PS3. But I downloaded it on 360. I haven't played it in like 5 or 6 years. I got further than I got what I had on PS3, and I also realized, that game is tough. I much prefer play like a Streets of Rage. For some reason, I don't know, Double Dragon, the characters move a lot slower, and so that bugs me a lot for a brawler. I'm like, I need to be quick. So, I kind of got stuck. Funny. My wife came down. She's like, "What are you playing? Is that Street Fighter?" I was like, "Not Street Fighter." Nice guess though.
Yeah.
And I've been playing Condemned Criminal Origins. I never played the first one. I only ever played the second one on PS3.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I still have it. And I was trying to find it digitally, and you can't buy it digitally. I looked on Xbox.
A lot of those 360 games you could never buy digitally. It's like
I'm glad I own a physical copy on PS. I'm glad I own the second one on PS3. But you can't.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's not in the store, not on Steam.
Well, it's like I really want a copy of Batman Arkham Origins on 360 because you can't buy that one digitally. It's backwards compatible on Series X, and it actually has a 4K 60 frames per second boost, but you have to physically have the disc. And now it's like it's getting hard to find because like GameStop just don't carry them anymore.
$20. Yeah, that's something to think about. Anyway, so I bought the first one, played it for like an hour. It's interesting. It's not as polished as the second one.
No,
the jump scares are pretty cheap. Think of it as like an action horror game or action game with horror elements. That's a little, that's FPS, a little bit fast.
Well, and that Condemned was early in the 360.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say like the first year.
Game. Yeah, because the second one is, if I remember, being more polished. And the ending of the second one is dumb, but it is fun. I had this like sudden itch to play the Darkness games again too, and I don't know why. I really like the Darkness 2, and I have no idea why.
Those games are fun.
Yeah,
Darkness
they are.
2 is great. So much, just so like yeah. For some reason, Max Payne 3 too. I was looking around for that the other day. I was like, I think I have that somewhere.
I've got that on Steam and Rockstar, and I think I even got it on Epic.
I don't know. It's like I beat it before. Might as well go back and play. I'm pretty sure I beat the Darkness 2 at least a couple times. Actually, the first Darkness was the game when I bought my PS3, my 60 gigabyte PS3, it was the game I bought to go with it. Yeah. But that's it. I have not been playing very much.
Yeah.
Just,
I understand.
Doing my thing.
Doing the thing and work is
lots of work.
Work.
I did buy something interesting though. Occasionally, I look on Craigslist for video game stuff. There was a Vita TV for $50.
Vita TV.
PlayStation TV?
Vita
TV?
The PlayStation TV, for $50. Yeah, because I forgot that thing is not only is it 3D, but it actually had a setting for the PlayStation for PSP, right?
Yeah. So it came with a 8 gigabyte card. The guy said, I haven't used it in a long time, and I lost the power adapter. Well, we did a little bit of research, and it will work with PSP power adapter. 100%. No, fired it up. It has like a lower firmware on it, so if I want to hack it. And I played around with it for a little bit, has some games on it, go, this is why I didn't like the last one I had. Forgot that it's kind of cumbersome. It's a neat little toy. I got a buddy that might be interested in it, so we'll see.
I still have mine. I bought it on clearance.
I couldn't say no for that price.
No, I bought it. I bought the pack with the controller and one of the Ratchet and Clank games or something for download and for like $20 at Walmart one day. Even though I already had one, it was like, it's a sealed box. I'm going to buy it. You know,
a couple of years ago, I found 2 within like a month on Craigslist, and one came with a 32 gigabyte card. I was very surprised.
Yeah.
And yeah, I traded them to a friend who wanted them for a project. He gave me a bunch of retro games, and that was great because I got to add Dreamcast stuff to my collection. And then like a year later, he sold both of them because he gave up. I think he hacked one, and he's like, it's just not what I expected.
Yeah.
Little streaming box, man. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I considered hacking mine several times, but then I just take it out of the box and go, and I put it back in the box and put it back on the shelf and go, isn't that pretty?
The only other interesting thing I got going on is my buddy that recently sold his house and moved. He came over to my house in May, gave me a big tote of stuff and said, sell it for me.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give you like, 60 or 70%. I said, okay, whatever. Full N64 game system, big storage drawer. Just your usual, 007, Smash, Mario Kart, the good stuff. Controllers are in bad shape. And he had a bag of Game Boy stuff too, and that was pretty neat. And the other day he's like, so that stuff's worth like $200, right?
No, yeah. Here's $200. I'll just give you.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't be like, yeah. I was like, no, dude, we're looking at much more than that. And I was complaining a little bit to him. I was like, if you had brought this stuff to me a year ago, I could have got you more. But now. And 64, not as many people are interested right now. Game Boy stuff, there's been more.
Game Boy stuff's still pretty high.
Yeah, they're that was those copy of the Pokemon games I'd say.
Yeah.
Some guy bought Final Fantasy Adventure from me the other day too. Really wanted it.
Yeah.
He even brought his game bit and cracked it open in front of me. And
hey, good for him. I don't blame him anymore.
Man, it's my friends from 1992.
Yeah, I mean, anymore, that's what I do. Well, I say that's what I do. I cannot tell you the last time it's been almost a year, I'd say, since I bought.
I've seen a couple. Yeah, I think like the last time I bought something interesting, it was actually in trade. I think it was a guy traded me. I gave him a 360 and a bunch of games. He gave me an N64 with a couple games in a bag. He didn't tell me what games it were. One of them was Paper Mario. And I was like, oh. But I was like, oh. He's like, oh, I forgot that was in there. He's like, yeah, I think it's legit. And I didn't have my screwdriver with me. But when I got home, cracked it open. Yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, the last things I bought are still sitting over here in a box. I haven't even cleaned them yet. Those Atari games and those Sega Master System games that you picked up for me, that Afterburner and something. And that's been a long time ago. Yeah, it's like I said, it's been like a year. They're still sitting over there in a box, and I have not even cracked them open to clean them.
That was weird too that I bought them from. Like, just
yeah.
I
don't know. I mean,
all of the stuff, and I'm like, all right, man.
I still like my retro games, but it's the prices have just gotten so out of control. It's like I don't even care about trying to track them down and flip them and all this and that. It's kind of like I've kind of gotten what I've wanted, and I'm kind of like, man, I'm in a good place. So.
Yeah, I'm cleaning out what's left of the GameCube stuff I have. I picked up another Wii U recently too, and it was from a thrift store. It was in okay shape, Console's beat up a little bit. Gamepad has a little crack in the corner. Disk drive's crap. That's going to be a project.
Yeah.
Of course. It's
always something.
All right. That's it for me. Nothing too exciting.
All right, cool. We actually have some news this week. Some interesting stories. This is the first time I think I've ever seen hardware actually go up. Metaquest 2 pricing changes. Usually when a headline says that, usually it means it drops. They're actually raising the price of both of them by $100, and I don't understand why.
If you read into it, it's because people asked to get rid of the Facebook requirement. So when they do that, they raise the price because they can't sell your data.
Gotcha.
They were subsidizing it a lot, and that's how they could sell it so cheap. So now it's going to be, a little bit higher, but it sounds like if you read into it, this is maybe what it should be technically for what it actually costs. But because they were subsidizing that with selling all your data so that you get all sorts of ads on Facebook. No, it's just more like selling targeted ads, basically.
Yeah.
And so
that's how
because they would get outside money from other companies to advertise to you, then they could sell you the hardware because they had that other revenue stream. And if they're not going to do that, well, we'll make the hardware cost more.
Gotcha. Well, that's interesting. There was a lot of theories out there that they had some insider information that Apple's AR was going to be more expensive, and so Facebook said, "Well, we're selling ours too cheap."
I mean, that could be too. I'm sure there's many reasons. I
Yeah.
doubt it's just one.
Yeah, but that makes the Facebook thing makes more sense to me than any of them. I can see that. To me, though, it sets a dangerous precedent, especially if people buy it, because what's going to stop Sony from going, or Microsoft for that matter?
This
going,
isn't
hey,
a precedent. It's not the same thing
don't
because
think
there's
so?
so much. There's other tech that goes up. See graphics cards and components like that type of thing. See like that fluctuate more.
Yeah,
You know,
I
like
guess so.
buying storage drives, anything like that fluctuates a lot. It's just, yeah. I mean, maybe it's somewhat of a precedent, but like I'm sure there's phones that have changed prices and other things too. Like this isn't the first tech device that's ever gone up in price.
Well, if you want to get one before the price goes up, you got till tomorrow. So
go.
Which is
That's
the
just
31st, because August 1st they go up everywhere. So I still find it strange. I'm glad I bought my one. I did. Even though I don't use it every day, I'm still glad I bought it, and I'm still glad I bought it when I did. Since
I have no interest in it. If this helps put more competition out there, so where it's not just the only one, then that'll be good. But we'll just see how it shakes out over the next few years.
Yep.
The only VR I'm interested in is way too expensive.
Which is at the Vive? Is that what that? Or the
Valve Index, baby.
Index, yeah.
It ain't cheap, but it's cool.
No, it is not. Yeah, it is not cheap at all. But yet I see it on the top of the charts there every week on Steam. It's like, man, who's buying that?
Plenty of people.
I guess.
I've got my computer run it, so it's not like I'm investing the extra for a computer as well. If you're starting from scratch, but yeah, I don't know.
I really just need to buy a cable.
We're gonna have VR coming from our PlayStation again soon enough within the next year or so, probably, and I'm sure there'll be other things. But there's a lot of different kind of like tiers you can choose for where you want to get into VR if you want to do so.
Yeah, I need to get a cable and hook my Quest up to the PC so I can run some of those Steam VR games. I never have done it. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake is reportedly on pause indefinitely. I don't know if indefinitely is quite the headline. I know this whole thing.
It's definitely indefinitely. That's what every place I've seen is like. Hey, you guys done screwed up real bad.
Yeah, and I would like to know what they did. It's really weird. My understanding is this game has been in development for 3 years. They finally set LucasArts and Sony down and say we have a playable demo of a slice of the game, and they played it, and then immediately like the principal designer and the director the art director and the design director were fired, and they put the game on hold, and it's like, well, how bad was it? I mean,
it's got to be real bad, because if I don't know, KOTOR is not a small game, and if you're going to remake it from the ground up, that is a big project. So them sort of estimating that they were going to try and get it out by the end of this year was never going to be realistic, even if they put 3 years in it. That's got to be at least a 4 or 5 year project, depending on what size of your studio you have working on it. And I'm not sure how big Aspire is, but
I don't know.
KOTOR is a big project to do. Now, it's kind of a slam dunk if you do it well. You've got a built-in audience who will totally play that game. You've got people who played the original who want to do the remake, and you've got people who never played it who want to play it just because it's Star Wars and, hey, cool, you made a shiny new version of this thing that I've heard is really good. You'll have plenty of people who play it if you can actually make it. So it had to have been not good at all if they're just like, nope, we're pulling the plug, we'll figure it out eventually. I'm sure somebody will probably try and make a KOTOR remake. Maybe they'll just completely scrap it and start over somewhere else. Who knows?
I mean, according to the article here at the end, it says Aspire's future involvement in the project remains unclear. Aspire's parent company Embracer announced that in May that Saber Interactive would assist with the project, and some Aspire employees believe that Saber may just take over the project completely. So,
who knows?
I don't know. The whole thing is strange to me anyway. Why would I don't know what games Aspire has done.
They've done some ports. They haven't done and Star Wars things too, from what I understand. I don't remember specifically which ones now off the top of my head, but they've done lots of Star Wars stuff. And this is kind of like, say, Blue Point doing all these different kind of like remakes over time, and then like, hey, we want to do our own game or something, except for this is more like we've done a couple little bit ports and now we want to do a full-on kind of remake version. So it'd be like, they hadn't quite got to what Bluepoint done yet. This would be
Right.
their first kind of like Bluepoint style full-on remake from the ground up kind of a thing, and apparently it was not good or something, or maybe it was like, hey, this demo is okay, but we don't like the direction you're going and it took you 3 years to get here. We got to do something. Maybe it was that. Who knows?
I don't know. It's weird. It makes me wonder.
Yes.
Did LucasArts go to Sony and do this? Did Sony go to LucasArts? And how did Aspire? I don't know. I would think that you would want to go with somebody with a proven track record with a game.
Well, that's
like
the thing.
this.
They have a proven track record of kind of like smaller things.
Right.
I think what happened is they aren't doing a straight up like remaster style port. If you're doing it from the ground up, that's a very different thing than maybe what they've done. And maybe also, I can't remember now off the top of my head again, I have to look it up, but the stuff that they've ported before was probably a lot more recent versus how old KOTOR is at this point. So who knows?
Well, and
it's just an unfortunate thing of like, hey, we wanted to do this and then we just bit off more than we could actually chew. We thought we could do it and we just ended up not doing well.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And that's what I'm saying. I wonder why. And I understand. Companies are very. I always go back to Obsidian with this. Because 2 was so good. It's like, well, if you're going to remake 1 or remaster 1, if Obsidian can do it, why not go to them and have them do it? But I'm sure they've got more irons in the fire. They couldn't maybe. Maybe they did, and they just didn't have. They said,
it
no,
also
we don't have time.
Could be like who has the rights to it. Maybe Obsidian can't do it because Microsoft owns them now, and who knows?
Maybe,
all sorts of different things. Or it could just be like Aspire said, like, "Hey, we'd love to do this. Will you give us cash for this project?" And then they just totally, screwed it up. Maybe we'll have some inside scoops at some point in the future, like, hey, what went wrong? What went wrong with this project? That like whenever there's a big thing like this that happens, you're like, I wonder what happened. Sometimes it comes out, sometimes it doesn't.
Well, if anybody is super disappointed that it's not coming out, I highly recommend just going on the Series S or X, downloading and buying the original version. It's updated 4K, 60 frames a second. It's still a good story game to play. It's still fun.
It's a good game if you can get past the old ass game design, because it's very dated at this point. Like, even upgraded to 4K, it looks fine, but it's the how it plays part that can be difficult for some people if you've never played like that style of game. It definitely lacks some nice polish and quality of life things that you'd get in modern games.
Yeah, and yes, I believe it is on Steam because I think
I didn't know if it. No, I know it's on Steam. I want to know if it was like there've been any updates to it or anything like
that. I can't tell you.
I don't know.
A lot of the updates on the Xbox are all done on the Microsoft end. It has nothing to do with anybody else. Microsoft just had it done, so I don't know if that carried over to some of the PC ports or not. I'm going to say probably not.
But I would be very surprised if there aren't a ton of mods for KOTOR.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah,
it's $5 on Xbox right now. That's a definite play for price.
Yeah, and I
should go pull it up. I'm pretty sure I own it on Steam. I can go look.
Yeah, I know I own it on Steam too. I own the original Xbox version disc. The one I bought when it came out. I still have the original version of it.
But man. This is disappointing. It is. Always sucks with something like, oh, that could be really cool, and then it's not going to happen, or if it does, it's going to be quite a ways down the road.
It's
like,
one of those
KOTOR would be nice to play with a shiny new fresh coat of paint on it.
It's one of those things that I wished they had played the demo before they announced it. It's like, let's play a demo and then announce it, because then if it had been that rough, we never would have ever known about it. You know what I mean?
They got far enough into it for 3 years that they were like, okay, Jennifer Hale is going to be in it, and what little stuff that they'd already announced that, like, if they hadn't done some sort of a demo, I don't know. Maybe it's just a case of, video games are hard, and it just kind of fell apart on them.
Yeah. Video games are tough.
And then, like, the people at the top said, you know what? It's not worth pumping money into this, as is. We're going to have to do something different. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's a shame.
It is a shame. It really is a shame. I was very disappointed when that story broke this week. Square Enix Western Studios are, quote, a train wreck were a, quote, train wreck in slow motion. You didn't really need to tell us that. We kind of already knew it. But, This is an interesting article on the gamesindustry.biz.
Yeah, it's pretty much an interview with I forget
Stefan. I'm going to butcher that last name.
Justos, but that's not how you pronounce it. Nope, that's just my best guess.
You did it better. You did it better than I would. It's like, I'm not.
And yet I'm sure I still butchered it.
Yeah.
I've not heard it pronounced. I've only seen it in text, and I'm like, I could tell you that's probably. If I got that 100% correct, then no, there's no way.
And the only reason I know that's Stefan is because I know where the best clubs in New York are at. If you've ever watched Saturday Night Live with Stefan. But apparently he was. This was an interview. Did he quit or was let go in 2013? I don't remember.
No.
Exactly what it was, but anyway, he used to be with the company, and it's a real.
I think he left it on his own, but I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Remember. But it's a real interesting article about how those Western companies that Square had. It eventually the whole thing boils down to Square Enix would trim that fat off so to make them more appealing for Sony to buy Square Enix Tokyo is what they're hoping for. I mean, at this point, I think Square is just hoping that they get bought by. They want to get bought by Sony. They want to become part of Sony.
I mean, that's what he says. Who knows if that's true or not? Yeah. But I mean, this is pretty much just an interview from somebody who has a little bit of inside information for 2013 and before, and then doing some best guessing after that from an outside perspective, but with just knowing how stuff worked there. And it's kind of you're just pretty much telling us what we already kind of knew for the most part here, other than your guesses, but they're still guesses.
And after reading the article, it kind of makes you, and I told this to Nathaniel before you guys got here, it kind of really makes you think that Square Enix upper management is just a bunch of jerks. They just kind of wanted things to fail, so they could go, oh, look, they set unattainable goals on things just to make it look bad, so they could go, look what this is. We wanted it to sell $65 million
every
copies.
Single time one of the games from the Western Studios comes out, it was for the Deus Ex games, it was for the Tomb Raider games. It's okay,
I really
every time we're why are you evaluating it this way? That makes no sense. They did really well, but for whatever numbers you're comparing it against internally, it's bad. What are you smoking, guys? Come on.
But I mean, I'm hoping that since Embracer Group bought those studios, I'm hoping down the road we get some of those. Another Deus Ex. We get. Because they bought all those IPs.
I mean, it's going to depend on what those studios want to do and how well they're set up for just doing stuff kind of on their own. Because Embracer is not hands off completely by any means, but
they're very
hey, do what you want, but they're not going to put a bunch of as much direction, or at least to this point. That's what it seems like. Who knows how it actually is in fact, but that's just what it seems like from the outside.
Yeah. It's definitely a good read, and there's a link for it, like I said, in the show notes, that anybody who's interested in that kind of stuff.
But man, I would love for another Deus Ex game, or let them do another Thief reboot, or any of the other IP that they've got. Get me that Tomb Raider. I'd be surprised if we don't see another Tomb Raider, just because that's such a juggernaut IP that they'll be okay, it's a risk. But it's a risk worth taking. We'll give you money for it. Guys, go.
Yeah. It sold so many copies, and they still weren't satisfied. I'm it sold I think it sold several million, and they're no, it's not enough.
Yeah.
No.
The quality, or not the quality, but the reviews of the games kind of went down, especially for that third one. Rise is still, I think, the best of those three. Rise. But the last one that they put out, the Shadow of the Tomb Raider, right? It suffered from. Square Enix said, hey, add this stuff in here that you don't need. And because they had to focus on that and other things, it just kind of bogged that game down a bit. Also, there's just a little bit of bloat by the time that game came around. Yeah. And that game also is more bloat in the second half, because it just opens up really wide when you get to this one place, and then you lose all of your variety because you're just in that area for so long that it kind of just sputters out the further into that game you get, where you're just okay, not having it quite as much fun with it. But it was still a good game. It's not bad by any means. It just wasn't as enjoyable as the first two, but still a success. They sold a ton of them, and it was a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This week was investor report, earnings reports. I always find numbers interesting with things.
I've got a number for you. 3.
Yeah, I know, right? See, I'm very interested. Oh, okay. Sony's Q1, PlayStation 5 sales were up 4%. Software sales were down 26%, which is quite a bit. PlayStation Plus subs were up 2%, but monthly active users on PSN was down 3%, which is interesting. But that kind of falls back into,
I don't know. 3% is not that big. I mean, it technically is, but it's still like it's 3%, guys. Like you have fluctuations. Things don't stay exactly the same. So 3% seems like it's not that big of a fluctuation to me, but I'm not a statistician either, so maybe it's like, whoa, holy crap, guys, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Xbox, their hardware revenues dipped 11%, and their had a 6% drop in contents and services revenue as well, and a 7% decline in gaming revenue overall with Xbox. So everybody's down. Everybody's on the decline.
Just for that quarter, Xbox is still apparently like doing more for the full year too. So plus, like they got them Game Pass subscriptions. They're fine.
Yeah. But this just goes to show that when there's no games coming out, and I say no games, not like usual. We had Forza and Halo at the end of the year for Xbox. They've had nothing first party since, and then at the first of the year it was Horizon and Gran Turismo for Sony, and nothing since.
I forgot about Gran Turismo.
Yeah. And it looks like they're not going to get anything until God of War at this point. So it's
Well, I mean, it's not just them either, too, because we haven't had the same flow of like a bunch of big games coming out one after each other that would kind of like drive a lot of that. So like we've had some, but this year hasn't been as kind of like big game heavy as some years have been. So
and Xbox has kind of been able to get more systems out than Sony has. Well, it's like I sent you guys a picture the other day. I saw my first Series X in a Target. I walked in and I could have went, I would like to purchase that, and they would have said, okay. And we're 2 years into a console life, and I actually just now seeing my first one on a store shelf, and I travel over 3 to 5 states at a time and checking all those states. I'm always looking at places when I'm out for different things, and just now seeing one, it's unbelievable. I mean, even though it was just one, and I'm sure it didn't last very long, but to just stumble onto one is stupid, and it's
weird. Seeing you here, what is this?
What is that black box? I'm used to seeing the white boxes, but what's the black?
That's supposed to be an empty space on the shelf. What?
Yeah. So I think if anything, this generation is going to go long in the tooth, kind of like the 360 and PlayStation 3 generation did. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, it went 7 years. It went more like 10 because they still made those systems afterwards, and I think we're in for a long haul this time around. I think we're going to end up seeing 1 or 2 console refreshes at this point. Maybe not even that.
And who knows? We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, but I always find numbers of things interesting, and everybody. There's been a lot of quiet people, a lot of quiet hardcore people on the internet here this week after numbers come out, because neither one of them had anything to fight each other with. They had no ammo. It was like,
oh, hey, tech overall is down a little bit at the moment in the last quarter. Cool. Yeah. It's not just one or the other. Cool.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, awesome.
So you're saying that it's a systemic thing overall. Great. Cool.
Yeah. It's not just an Xbox thing. Yeah.
Hey, man, Xboxes are dumb because they're not white. I don't know, man. Guys, just stop. You don't need to argue on the internet.
No, they
don't
really
have to make up dumb things. Like, come on.
No, but yeah, I always find numbers like that interesting. So, but yeah. So, anything else we want to talk about before we call it quits? I can't think of anything. It's after midnight here, so my brain's starting to shut down. So even the caffeine I'm drinking is not enough to. It used to be that I could stay up till like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning and play a game, and then go to bed and get up a couple hours later and go do something. I can't do it anymore. Like about 11 o'clock, I'm like, I'd really like to play some games, but I really would like to go to bed.
Yeah, I'm that way too. I'm like, I'm tired.
It's like right now, it's like, normally I would get done. Yeah, well, it's normally I'd get done with the show. I'd go upstairs, use the bathroom, let the dog out, and come back down, sit down. Nope, I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm going to go upstairs, and I'm going to put my pajamas on, and I'm going to bed.
Here's what you do. You go to bed, but holding a video game controller so that you can control your dreams. That's how it works, right?
Yes.
If only, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be great. I would be able to get rid of my backlog really quick.
Yeah, right? Like all those wasted hours just sleeping.
Yeah, who needs it? Who needs it?
Multitasking. Come on, we need to invent it.
Yeah, really.
Game while you sleep.
Jeez. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for hanging out and listening to us. Like I say, if you want to come hang out on the live stream, follow us on @GL_podcast. That way you'll know a couple hours before we go live on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook or wherever. If not, you'll get the show on your podcast catcher whenever I put it up, which is usually sometime Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. Unless I forget, then it's late Sunday evening. But, it happens. All right, guys. Well, once again, thanks a lot for listening and hanging out with us, and we'll catch you all next time.
See you later.